So Denise, let's talk a little bit more about open houses.
Okay.
So it's our theme this month in Club Zebra. We really want to help agents develop some better skills, think about open houses in a different way, and ultimately build success in open houses if that's one of their options for lead generation. So we talked a lot about what you should do to have a successful open house. But let's talk a little bit about what not to do to have an open house. What are the things, the mistakes that you see agents consistently make around open housing?
Okay, perfect question. I think the biggest mistake they make is pouncing. So somebody comes into an open house and they are too direct, too quickly. They're asking inappropriate questions. They're not listening to people's, not only what they're saying, but what they're not saying. So they're not looking at their body language. They're not taking the clue. When somebody comes in and maybe you say to them, hey, you want to have a quick tour? They might say, no, I'm in a really big hurry. Well, then don't say to them, well, okay, before you go on your tour, let me just give you the highlights. That's being pushy and you're not listening to the clues that person is giving. What that person is saying is, leave me alone, let me get through this as quickly as possible. So I would say the first thing is pouncing on people, not listening to them, not watching their body language, not paying attention to the clues that they're giving. And for me, the biggest mistake an agent makes is how they are engaging with the client. People will forgive maybe if you've forgotten to make an open house book. They'll forgive you if you forgot to have a feature card. They're going to forgive you if you don't have open house boards. Not that those things aren't important. They're all critically important. But people don't forgive you if you're pouncing on them and you're being invasive and you're not respecting them and if you're not listening to them. If I go into an open house, and I've done a lot of mystery shopping for open houses. If I go into an open house, sometimes I will go in with the strategy that I'm going in and I'm going to rush through it. Other times I say I'm going to go in it and see how long that agent can keep me in the open house. And literally I'll stay there half an hour if they can engage me for half an hour. What's interesting is oftentimes when I go in and I want to be engaged and I'm giving them clues like I'm standing around for a long time, I'm looking at all their materials, I'm really analyzing something, I find oftentimes agents are ignoring me. That's ignoring a very important clue. So when I'm thinking I want to stay longer, they're not taking that clue. Other times I will walk in and I'm in a big rush and hurry, and my goal is to get in and out as quickly as possible. What I want someone to do is to engage me as quickly as I'm engaging them, to provide me something to take with me, to not try to stop me when I am clearly, I'm making just a beeline for that door. So that's the biggest, by far the biggest one, is this lack of ability to engage with me the way that I want to be engaged with. And that's the mistake they're making. They're not engaging with potential buyers and sellers in a manner that they want to be engaged with. And you do have to alter your behavior. If you think you're going to hold an open house and everybody is going to be treated the same way, you're going to give the same spiel to everyone, you've got to give everyone the same tour, everyone's got to sign in a guest register, you can do all the open houses you want, but you're never going to sell one, and you're never going to get anybody to do business with you after. So you have to read people's body language and their clues.
How does an agent learn how to do that? Because I think that's something agents aren't very good at.
Well, actually, the best way for an agent to learn it is to actually mystery shop other open houses. So I tell them, go to another area where you're not known and spend a whole day Saturday, whole day Sunday, go through as many open houses as you can. You will feel it the moment when somebody is not listening to you, they're not watching your body language. The quickest way to learn is to get right into the experience. The quickest way to get into the experience is to actually go to open houses. You'll be shocked, and I have had agents over the years do this. In fact, when I was a broker, every one of my agents had to go to another market area to go through that experience. And every one of them came back and was like, wow, that was powerful. So you have to do that. You also have to learn about people's body language, you have to watch them. Be a real observer of people. Also, when you speak to them, notice if they're engaging more or if they're engaging less. If you start talking to somebody and they're engaging less, there's probably a really good opportunity for you to back off and to see if that works better. But what a lot of people do is they keep pushing harder. So all they're doing is really turning people off. So it's really important to learn it. You got to do it. To do it, it gives you an opportunity to experience it. When you experience it, you do better. So you got to get into the experience of it. You have to do your time in open houses, not just in your own, but in going to open houses to really get a feeling of what a good open house is.
Great. I want to talk about something that you mentioned in week gosh, I think it was week 2 where we talked about, it was week 3 during the open house.
Yeah.
You talked about open house boards and merchandising the house.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of people have never seen the open house boards that we talk about when we coach clients. Can you share a little bit of information about what that board looks like and what someone should include on that?
Okay, great question. Well, first of all, the open house boards, I first created them many, many years ago when I was working with a lot of builders and developers. What I realized was that really good builders wouldn't even open their home sites up until they had, in essence, their showroom available for potential buyers to see. So they had, showroom, sales center, whatever verbiage you're used to hearing in your market area. But the sales center was an area where people came in and they got to see, it always had a community map. Number one, people love to look at maps and they really like to know where is this house in relation to this particular neighborhood or area. So, the sales centers would have information maybe about the builder, information about the homes, information about floor plans, information about the area, amenity, community, market. So when I did open houses, I wanted to create that same experience because I never saw agents doing that. I never saw anything like that. What I noticed, though, when I was selling new construction is I really loved the experience that I got when people came into the sales center, and I took what I learned in new construction and I transferred into my resale business, and I started doing my open houses the same way they do in new construction. And I started to see a huge difference. So today, what I get agents to do is to get beautiful, nice, black, almost like the science board size. You can get them at almost any office supply store. And then create a story about you, about the house, about the neighborhood, about the community. Have a couple of boards. So one of those boards might be specifically, absolutely just for that area. So it might be a map showing the area. It might have some community information. It might show amenities nearby, schools nearby, shopping nearby. Another board might be a little bit about you and about the way that perhaps you look at the house in terms of its value, the way you've priced the house. Maybe you've got some extra pricing verification there to show them that. You also have information there about the neighborhood, maybe the surrounding neighborhood, so they know how that compares. I think it's really important to have community information. If you're holding an open house up in a certain particular area, tell people about the area, give them more details. It's very, very important to have something that will slow people down. Also, I always include appreciation rates or depreciation rates, depending on the marketplace. People want to know where this neighborhood is, how is it appreciated, and don't be afraid to give people the truth and the facts, because people don't make buying decisions until they have all the information, and that's a really critical part of the open house. So the open house boards are really your opportunity to slow people down and to invite them to engage.
It sounds like a lot of work. I can guarantee you there are agents out there listening to you thinking, Denise, I don't have 17 hours to create these things. How much time should an agent be spending developing these materials?
Well, time is relative, because what I see is I see agents spending 17 hours attending open houses and having no result. I see agents investing 17 hours to get all the materials prepared, but now they've got them time and time again. So the nice thing about, for example, the boards that you use in the open house is, imagine that you work in, let's just use Seattle as an example. Maybe you work in the Seattle area. You're going to have the information about Seattle on those boards. You can then take any information off that doesn't pertain to maybe that neighborhood. So all you have to do at every open house is now add new neighborhood information. So it might take you 15 or 20 minutes to gather that neighborhood information. You can put it on with double-sided Velcro, so it comes on and off. Now, the other thing is that once you've done that open house, let's say in the Queen Anne neighborhood, and you've got Queen Anne information, once it's done, maybe next time you're going to be doing the Ballard area, so you now have information on Ballard. But the next time you go back to do an open house in Queen Anne, you've got it. So one of the things that I say to agents is, yeah, it's going to take some time to prepare for an open house, but then you're going to have success at an open house. And the agents that I work do not have the time to waste, and I don't think you should take time away from your family or the things that you love and enjoy to do really ineffective open houses. So the prep work that you do ahead of time is incredible. Once the boards have been created, it takes a little bit, maybe half an hour to get new information. That's it. Is it going to take you some time maybe to create some feature cards? That really is going into the house, knowing the features, putting those on those feature cards, and then literally printing them off and bringing them to the open house. I don't think that that's too time consuming. I think it's time very, very well invested and well spent. Same thing with your welcome to my open house sign. Once you've got it forever. So those are things that you can always reuse. So I just wouldn't be doing an open house without doing those things. I also wouldn't be doing an open house if I did not in some way invite myself or introduce myself rather to neighbors in a nice way with the letter telling neighbors, hi, let me put a slow down sign. People respect that. How long is that going to take to do a letter? Well, if you've done that letter 10 times, it's pretty easy. All you have to do is choose the neighbors directly around the house. There might be 10 of them, 15 of them, 20 of them. But what a great way to make a strong impression with those close neighbors. So I'd say any planning time that you spend is profit time on the other end.
It makes sense. Planning, another thing you mentioned in your thing was figuring out which house is the right house to hold open.
Yes.
So it's what we call, where are the fish biting?
Talk
a little bit about why you think that's so important, because what we see typically is agents who are holding an open house open because it's nice, it's in a nice neighborhood, it's an expensive home, and they want to make a big commission checks or hoping to find a high-end buyer. They're picking open houses for reasons that aren't very strategic. So talk if you would for a minute about that.
A lot of people, as you said, they're choosing open houses because they like them or because they think that, well, I'm going to do a luxury home and that's going to really propel me and people will get to know I work luxury homes. Well, the reality is that people buy homes that are priced well, people buy homes that are in demand, and you've got to find out where that market is. So what we do, and what I encourage agents to do, is go into the MLS in your area. Pull up and find where all the properties are pending. Find where the most pendings are in terms of price point, in terms of neighborhood, and in terms of style. And you will find that there are certain homes that are in high demand. Why wouldn't you do an open house in an area that is a high demand area or a price point that's high demand? Now, a lot of people will say, well, I've got to hold my listing open. Yes, you have to hold your listing open if it's priced well. But one of the things that I encourage my agents to talk to their sellers about is don't have open houses on overpriced listings. All you're doing is basically advertising how wrong you are about what you've priced that property at. So what you do by going into the MLS is you find these points of preference and then you market to that. Now let's say you don't have a house that is $300,000 that is in a particular neighborhood. You need to find one. And you can find one usually within your office. There's always lots of inventory around there. And I can tell you that agents like other agents holding their home open if they know you, they trust you, they like you, and you do a good job for them. Also, if you take the time to show them the kind of open house you're doing. The other thing is, find out where the fish are biting. And let's imagine you want to hold an open house, but you don't have one and there's nobody in your office that has one. Well, then why don't you go list one? Right? So the reason I like to use the MLS is not just for open houses, but to find opportunities so you can go and list those homes.
Sure. Thank you, Denise. That's been super helpful, and I think that's a really nice supplement to this open house.